It's Corona Watch 2020, and we're live from Dallas, Texas, to go over some of the recent happenings in the last couple of days, as a lot of stuff has happened since I last spoke to everybody. Donald Trump exposed to Corona, pictures taken with a positive individual with the coronavirus. He apparently was tested, came back negative. Curbside pickup and delivery is taking over the nation. New York City on lockdown. Los Angeles on lockdown. I am on lockdown. Social distancing is being enforced throughout the nation. What will happen next? This is Tony Talks 2020 Corona Watch. So apparently Donald Trump got exposed to the coronavirus and the media pressed him to get tested, which apparently led to him following their advice to getting tested, because in his news conference he was saying that he has no symptoms, no reason to get tested, and then part of the guidelines from the CDC and from the World Health Organization was to get tested if you are exposed to people who have been carrying the virus. So he follows the peer pressure and he's able to get tested, and supposedly the results came back negative. I saw a couple of articles online saying that we have no reason to believe that he actually did get tested, because the White House sent out a press release, or a memo from his physician was sent out saying that he does not need to get tested because he doesn't show any of the symptoms, which of course contradicts the WHO or the CDC or whoever's guidelines it is that says if you're exposed to people who test positive for the virus, excuse me, there's some corona for everybody once again. If you're exposed to somebody who does test positive for the virus, that you should get tested as well. So, apparently maybe he should release the results from his test. Maybe Obama should go on a media tour saying, we need to see the results, show us we have reason to believe that this document has been altered, and we want to see positive confirmation that you actually did take the test. The same way Trump went on his media tour and said we need to see his birth certificate, Obama should now say we need to see his test result. But let's not see it too closely in case there is some corona on there. And hopefully Trump will publish that, because personally I think that somebody in his predicament should put the population and the media to ease as best he can. But it was nice to see all the major heads of corporations, whether it's CVS, Walgreens, Target, Quest Diagnostics, and whoever else they had up there, LabCorp. I don't know if they were even up there, but they all showed kind of a united front to hopefully be able to push us more to contain this, push us more to get tests out, so that this thing eventually does get contained, and we could get our NBA back, our MLB, and all that good shit that makes Americans at ease. Because if we're not watching sports, what are we supposed to do? Talk to people? I don't think so. I, for one, am outraged that they could expect us to just park ourselves in front of the TV with no live sports on. And that's, fortunately, it's a good thing we still have some people like Dana White out there who don't give a fuck and will stop at nothing to put the UFC on, regardless if there's a global pandemic, and whoever he has to fight on these things. He put out a memo to all managers and agents saying we need people to fill up this card that Tyron Woodley's supposed to fight on next week, because the UFC London card is not going to happen, because London, or I guess the UK in general, their coronavirus infection rate has been skying through the roof, and they were recently put on the travel ban, I guess, if you want to call it that, whatever the hell they're calling it, because of their increased amount of infections. So Leon Edwards off the card. Colby Covington stepping in. He went to Instagram and said, do you want to see America's champ step in? This is action hero type shit, and slapped the taste out of Tyron Woodley's mouth. that's the fight to make if they can make it happen. Tyron Woodley, Colby Covington. It's been a long time coming, belt and no belt. That will be watched by a lot of people. Hopefully they're able to make it happen. I don't know where they're going to do it, though, because they can't do it in Las Vegas. And apparently now they're looking at doing it on tribal lands and Native American reservations, because most of the state athletic commissions are holding off any and all events. Well, I'm getting breaking news on my ESPN app. Texans trading DeAndre Hopkins to the Cardinals. Wow. As part of the David Johnson swap. That's a good weapon for young Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray's got himself a receiver, and the Texans got themselves a running back. But I don't know why the Texans would do that. I guess there's more details that got to come out. But David Johnson going to Houston, and DeAndre Hopkins going to Arizona. That should make they got the heir apparent of freaking Larry Fitzgerald there now. Anyway, Dana White refusing to cancel UFC events. They're looking at putting them on at Native American reservations because the state athletic commissions are postponing any and all events. The CDC sent out guidance not to have gatherings of 50 or more people. I don't know if you could even put on a UFC with just 50 or less people. If you have 10 fights, that's 20 fighters plus the coaches. You're at 50 people right there. I guess you don't need too much else, and if you keep everybody isolated away from each other, you're kind of keeping those gatherings down. And I would presume that any people that are involved in these events will be tested prior to the fights, to the event. And I think that would be pretty dope if they do put it on tribal territories, on Native American reservations. I thought the UFC's event in Brazil this past weekend in front of an empty crowd, it was still pretty dope. Still was good broadcast. The fighters went out there, did their thing, didn't really seem to mind that there was no crowd there. And yeah, I thought it was a good event. I thought it was going to be interesting to watch, and I think it exceeded expectations. It was a great card. Johnny, my buddy, texted me before the fight, and he was like, "Give me your 3 guarantees to that who's gonna win." And I was like, "Dude, I don't know. I don't bet on this stuff. I could tell you who I would guess is gonna win, that you could potentially win money with, but don't gamble based on my word. I never gamble on this shit." And I said, "Go with, if you're gonna do it, don't do it. But if you do it, I would guess Kevin Lee, Johnny Walker, Amanda Ribas." And Ribas, of course, won. Johnny Walker did not. Kevin Lee did not. Tough day for the TriStar guys. Johnny Walker's fight was pretty good. Kevin Lee seemed like he was winning. I thought he got the edge in the first 2 rounds. I don't know. I never score rounds and look to see and write down, 10-9, 9-10, one way or another. But I thought he probably was having a slight upper hand, and he was probably in control of the fight until he got caught with that guillotine. But that's what happens. Double legs. You could get caught in those. It looked like he was going for a double leg anyway. I can't really. I don't really remember it too much off the top of my head. But he was going for a takedown, and Oliveira was able to catch him in it, and I think he's got like an 8-9 fight win streak right now or something. So that guy needs a big fight. Poirier is matched up with Dan Hooker. He called out. Did he call out Paul Felder? Who called out Paul Felder? Oh, and Moicano. Moicano, who had a 40-second submission too. He called out Paul Felder, but that's not going to happen. Felder said he's only going to come back if it's like a big fight. And Moicano looked really good, and he should probably get some money in the top 10 as well. How about Oliveira and Moicano? That pretty much checks the boxes for both of those guys, but I think Moicano definitely needs to get somebody ranked. I didn't know who he fought this past weekend, but he should probably get a ranked opponent next because he was doing good at featherweight. And sometimes when those guys move up a weight class, that's a big it's a missing ingredient. Look at Kelvin Gastelum. Usually it happens with guys that go from like 170 to 185 or 185 to 205, like we saw with Thiago Santos, Anthony Smith. Sometimes it backfires. Chris Weidman, Luke Rockhold. But we'll see what happens with Moicano. Definitely, I want to see him fight a ranked guy, lightweight. He's super talented. Oliveira, that's right. He called out. He wants to fight for the title next. He says he's gonna be sitting front row for Khabib and Tony. I do not see that happening, but maybe Iaquinta Cowboy, that would be dope, because I believe Oliveira now has the record for most finishes in the UFC history, and that was just Cowboy's record, or most submissions. God damn it, I'm not prepared. Anyway, that would be pretty cool. Cowboy doesn't have an opponent. He's down to dance with anybody. He's coming off the Conor loss. Gives Oliveira a big name to go up against. I wouldn't be mad at that. That's pretty good. That makes sense. I think that makes sense for both parties. Put that on the main event on an ESPN Plus card, and let's do it. Yeah, that would probably be the most sensible name. You give him a decent name. You give him somebody higher in the rankings. He's got some momentum. See if he continues to climb. For Kevin Lee, he says he's going to take some time off. I wouldn't be mad at him for doing that either. He's super talented. He's very athletic. He's explosive. He just he got caught and he missed weight too, which is disappointing always. But he got caught doing that guillotine, and I thought he was doing well in the scrambles. Oliveira's a submission genius, but yeah, Kevin Lee, we'll see what happens with him from here. He said he's not going to come back for a little bit, but I wouldn't be surprised if we see him on a pay-per-view or main eventing another card sometime in the future. It feels like every time that guy fights, he's a main event. And that is with the exception, of course, of his last fight, which I believe was in New York against Gregor Gillespie. That was, I believe, that fight with the head kick knockout that opened up the card for the baddest motherfucker title card, Masvidal and Diaz. Yeah, so that was UFC this past weekend. It was a very good card. It was a very deep card. A lot of high level action, and no crowd, no problem. I'm curious to see how it did on the ratings, because it was simulcast with both ESPN Plus and ESPN live on regular cable television, which of course is gonna I'm sure ESPN is counting on UFC right now. I bet Dana White was in touch with Trump, because Dana White and Donald Trump are good friends, so I'm sure Dana got on the phone with him and said, well, we need to have the UFC events go on, and then Dana was like, or Trump was like, something, I agree, this country, it needs something for the people to do at home with no ball of basket or of ball of foot. It is widely important that you have those fights and they go on. Hopefully you're able to secure something with the Native American reservations. If not, we will contact them via executive order and ensure that the ultimate championship of fighting is able to take place on those grounds, not knowing that the Native American reservations are completely out of his jurisdiction. But I'm sure he would try anyway. Maybe that's what's happening. He's swearing that they're not stopping unless the country is on like a complete lockdown where people aren't allowed to leave their homes. He said that's the only way they are stopping these events. So they would be pretty. I didn't hear any confirmation since Tyron Woodley said he's still looking to fight, and Colby Covington supposedly volunteered to take Leon Edwards' place in the main event. Hopefully they are able to find somebody to take on Woodley, and if it's Colby Covington, that would be a pretty dope main event. Those guys have a lot of history. They should have fought in They should have fought. Woodley said they were supposed to fight 4 times, and Colby turned the fight down each time. But we'll see what happens. I wouldn't be mad, and I'm sure that would draw a lot of eyes to the UFC again. Between the UFC and all these podcasts, that seems to be the primary source of a lot of people's entertainment as we are in these trying times. Not a lot of stuff going on, not a lot to do, but you have a laptop, you have a microphone, you can have a podcast, and that's exactly what we're doing here with Tony Talks, even though the news is just kind of not segregated, but what's the word I'm looking for? Extremely narrowed down to one subject that is taking over the minds of everybody. Fortunately for Tony Talks, fortunately for me, stupid, the UFC is something that I like to talk about a lot more so than anything probably, and the UFC is refusing to quit and it drives on. You could tell SportsCenter is feeling the effects of the coronavirus. I mean, I saw them posting X Games highlights from like 1996. So we're back to X Games. They put on a clip of Bill Nye the Science Guy hitting a softball. Like, was that really necessary? And I saw that they're posting clips of these players on Twitch playing each other, which is fine. I guess what are they supposed to report on? They should continue to pump up the UFC a little bit more. You know what I'm so tired of seeing, and I'm sure we're going to see even more of these, is these stupid trick shots of people taking the ping pong, throwing it across their house, and bouncing it into a cup across the room. It's so overrated. It is the most overrated viral video, and SportsCenter posts every single one of these stupid clips. Of course, I could sit on the top of a balcony and throw a ping pong ball across the room 600 times, and on the 600th time when the ball goes in, I could have people go, oh my god, oh my god, I can't believe he got it in the cup, I can't believe he got it in the cup, and then send us to SportsCenter and get on there. It is the most overrated fucking viral videos, is these kids throwing the ball and going in the cup and then screaming like it's something special that they did. Yeah, I'm grumpy right now. Did not go to jiu-jitsu because I am I feel I'm taking the precautions seriously, the social distancing. I'm picking up food from the supermarket later, and I did the curbside pickup thing where they just like drop the food off or your groceries off at the side of your car, and you pick it up and just go in just to avoid contact with people. Because, this thing has to be isolated. And a lot of people were talking shit because, they had Donovan Mitchell on Good Morning America, and he didn't have any symptoms, and he was like, I don't have any symptoms, I just tested positive for it, and I was told I have to stay in isolation, and, hopefully the virus goes away, and, we all take precautions. And then all the comments with these idiots writing, well, then why are we all panicking over it? Why is it a big deal if it doesn't even do anything? It's like, that's one guy. That's one super athlete's story of having the fucking virus. Of course, if somebody's going to have as little symptoms as possible, it's a guy that is a professional NBA player and has an immune system that's on steroids all the time. I'm not saying he's on steroids, I'm saying his immune system is just very, very strong because he works out all the time, eats healthy, he's a professional athlete. Not every case would be the same. People with more compromised immune systems would feel the symptoms a lot stronger than what Donovan Mitchell, NBA All-Star, I think he's an All-Star, NBA All-Star, is feeling. So can we calm down with these people that have no idea what they're talking about writing, well, if he's feeling it like that, then I would feel it the same way. And it's like, okay, yeah, go give him a hug. Go talk to him and then see how you're feeling. Because I'm sure you're not going to have the same effects that Donovan Mitchell is having. Um, I gotta stop saying I realized I've listened to one of the previous episodes and I said like way too often. So that'll be something that I work on, hopefully by Tony Talks episode 400, as we are on episode 4 right now. That is, there I go again. Anyway, Joe Biden and Bernie Sanders went head to head, no crowd in attendance, mano a mano, who wants it more? Joe Biden with the lead, Bernie Sanders trailing from behind, but it's far from over. It's just 100 delegate lead. Everybody's writing it off like I don't understand how the election is a foregone conclusion. If it's 100 delegate lead, it's 700 to 600 and they're going to 2,000 or something. It's like 700 to 600 and they're going to 2,000 delegates in order to secure the nomination. And everybody's saying Joe Biden has it wrapped up already. Which doesn't make any flippant sense to me. Then why even carry out the primaries when the CDC is saying don't have 50 people or more in a single space in order to have the correct amount of social distancing? Why even have the fucking primaries if it's already wrapped up? If Bernie Sanders wins 3 states, it's pretty much an even race at this point. So let them keep playing it out. It was pretty funny just to watch them go back and forth, and they're just like these 2 old men that are just yelling at each other. And they both hate Donald Trump. It's going to be hilarious to see who even ends up debating Trump between Bernie Sanders and Joe Biden, because Trump has his own issues, and then Biden was calling the coronavirus SARS, and then Bernie Sanders was calling it Ebola or something. And they really I don't know who you would want out of the 3 of them. Trump, Sanders, Biden, who do you really want calling the shots in a situation like this? I think that it's worth noting that maybe we should look at somebody's overall health and age in future elections, and then because there were people that had fears over Trump because he was exposed to the virus. Fortunately, he didn't contract it, but Tulsi Gabbard, hello, Tulsi Gabbard, paging Tulsi Gabbard, who should have been in the fucking debate, by the way, because they just changed those rules, and she would have had I'm sure this would have been her best debate in the middle of the coronavirus scare. You get these 2 old guys that don't even know that are mispronouncing the virus. And then you have Tulsi Gabbard, young, fit, healthy, and probably has the strongest immune system, so that if something did happen to the candidate or did happen to a president, who would have the best shot of bouncing back from this thing? It would be Tulsi Gabbard. Though, Biden did say or did commit to having a female vice president. Bernie Sanders stopped short of saying that, which I agree with him with, saying that he wants to look at the full body of work of a person. He would like to have a woman as his running mate. However, he's not 100% sure, and we'll have to see which candidate would make the most sense for him. If Bernie gets does pull off the comeback and get the nomination, it would be really dope to see Tulsi Gabbard as his running mate, and to see her debate Pence, and to see her have get a real push furthermore in the national spotlight. If Joe Biden gets the nomination, I highly doubt that he selects Tulsi Gabbard, because she is not an establishment Democrat like somebody that he's going to end up picking will be. I don't think he'd pick Elizabeth Warren, but I do think he'll pick, I don't know, we'll see what happens. I don't like the idea of saying you just got to pick somebody just because they're in a certain demographic class, that you are just going to try to get votes from that population. I would like to, I'd rather them say something closer to what Bernie Sanders said, and that's what we'll see. There's some good, I'll lean towards selecting a female, but we'll look at the full body of work and just pick the person that seems to make the most sense. Which makes sense. Don't pick somebody just because they're a woman or just because they're black or Asian. Speaking of an Asian American candidate, Andrew Yang, lost all. I was on the Yang Gang, donated money to his campaign, blah blah blah. But when he endorsed Joe Biden, I had to like that was really disappointing because the racism. He's like, well, he just seems like he's kind of wanting to stay in the news now. CNN had him on, and he's a guy that looks like he's gonna be towing the party lines now, and this just came out of nowhere because of his UBI proposal, and he was polling decent, never hit a certain threshold, but we'll see what happens with him now. But it was very disappointing to see him endorse Joe Biden because I thought of Andrew Yang as an outside establishment candidate, and now he's on CNN peddling the party lines and all that shit. So disappointing for him, but at least we got Tulsi Gabbard that we can rally behind from this election. So that's where that's as far as the election goes. But for now, where do we go from here? Where do we go from here? It's March 16th, 2020. The virus has not slowed down. It has seemingly continued to accelerate. There are more new cases. Every day seems to be a new record of found cases. Testing kits are supposedly going to be more readily available starting this week. So hopefully they could get those numbers identified. And then, I'm saying the word hopefully a lot because a lot of it is based on hope right now. Because let's face it, the economy is continuing to crash. Businesses are being put on standby. A lot of uncertainty with income for average Americans, average income Americans like myself. So, you just gotta sit and hope and see if you could find something to do that can hold you over in the long haul, because that's what we have to depend on, what we're gonna see in the long haul. There's nothing that's more sickening than seeing these people load up of pallets of Lysol disinfectant wipes and toilet paper and hand sanitizer, and then could go on eBay and price gouge the shit out of their fucking fellow countrymen. If there's people that are bad people, it's those people. What I don't get is how the business allows those people to buy all that shit. I saw one couple spent like $70,000 on Lysol disinfectant wipes, and they were selling them on Amazon and ended up making like $100,000. And now, of course, Amazon is slowing it down, and being able to, suspend those accounts. Thank God, which makes sense, because it's not right. A lot of people are criticizing capitalism because they're like, look, the first set of panic, the shelves are all emptied out and blah blah blah, and it's like, well, you're used. This is something that got sparked, really took everybody by surprise. But capitalism is able to restock those shelves in a very time-sensitive, and it's not, it's just because there's idiots that are buying up all the selections that are in high demand that are being emptied off shelves. It's up to the stores to stop them or limit the amount per customer. I think that's something that they're going to start doing, and you see that more and more, because there's no idiot needs 40 rolls of toilet paper while their next door neighbor doesn't have any, and is going to have to wipe their ass with their next door neighbor's welcome mat, which is what you should do, by the way. If you see one of these assholes with all these toilet paper, wipe your ass with their welcome mat and then ring the bell and tell them to go fuck themselves. But aside from that, hopefully we're able to continue to make progress. Hopefully this thing eventually does get contained. We isolate the scumbags and we give them all the corona that they could ask for here in Corona Watch 2020, and eventually we'll get over it. It's going to be some trying times, but I'm over here. I'm mostly home now. I'm in classes online now, and they do like a live feed. So I think a lot of this stuff is showing how useless a lot of positions are in person, and how much shit can be done online, and we'll still be able to be productive and overcome it. And hopefully we'll be able to look out for each other as well, because of Corona Watch 2020 is really hampering a lot of people. And that's going to be it for this episode. I'll be paying attention to the news, and if anything hot comes out, or if there's any big stories, I'll continue to push those. And I'm going to try to get creative now with some segments on this show and try to make things a little bit more, I don't know, interactive or whatever. Tony Talks 8 on Instagram and on Twitter, and Tony Talks 8 podcast on Gmail. Give us a follow, give us an email, whatever. Slide into the DMs and look out for each other. All right, go fuck yourselves.
In old New York.